Hey everyone, welcome back to John's Watch. Today I'm going to be taking a look at a new game called Lightseeker. This game is going to be released on December 31st, 2025 on Game Boy Color. It's developed by Zani.Pixels and published by Bitmap Soft. The regular price for just the digital edition, just a ROM, is £10. At the time of recording, you actually can't buy the digital edition yet. You can only pre-order the physical edition, which is £50. I was asked by the publisher, Bitmap Soft, if I would be interested in taking a look at this game. I'm pretty big into retro games, and I have an analog pocket, which means that I'm able to play original hardware, original Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance cartridges. So I wrote back and said, yes, I'd be interested. You know, I can also cover the physical release if you'd like me to. And they said, yeah, that'd be great, we'll send you a physical copy, but feel free to cover just the digital version for the time being. So in this video, I'll just be taking a look at the digital version, the ROM, still running on my analog pocket. And then at some point in the future, hopefully early January, early mid-January, I'll be able to do like an unboxing of the physical version and just pop that into my analog pocket and see how that goes. This is a rogue-like dungeon crawler, rogue-lite, I don't know, it's hard to tell with this one, honestly. The brief description is, an ancient thing awoke in the north. Wherever its shadow fell, the skies darkened and the world burned. Survivors fled underground into vast dungeons buried deep beneath the ruined earth. Some still dare to wander the dark, searching for a long-forgotten light. Enter a dungeon filled with horrors, each room brings hunger and despair, but every kill grants rations to fend off starvation or to buy stronger weapons. In the abyss, your armor is your life. Find better protection to venture deeper, or simply delay the inevitable death. You will die, but with every death you'll keep your loot and grow stronger for what awaits below. So yeah, I guess we could call it rogue-lite. You know, it is permadeath. You know, when you die, you start your run again. When you start out the game, you're greeted with 4 selectable characters. One of them, I think it was called the Burned, is only available once you've beaten the game once already. Looked pretty cool, but I guess you should have a cool reward for beating the game. The other ones are the Knight, pretty normal, you know, high armor, and you need armor because every time you bump into a monster or anything like that, you'll take armor damage, and that's your health, really. So they've got high health, but fairly low damage. There's also the Hunter, who has also low damage and lower armor than the Knight, but obviously also has range. Sorry, the locked class was called Scorched, not Burned. And then the final class is called the Awoke, who is described as a feral Eastern warrior. They've got very low armor, but double the damage of the Knight and the Hunter. So kind of your glass cannon build. You have to be pretty confident that you're not going to bump into enemies. Which is what happened with me very, very quickly when I tried that class out. Now, the first 20 minutes I played this game, I played about 10 minutes with the Knight and then 10 minutes with the Hunter. And funny, I had loaded the wrong core, I guess, on my analog pocket. I'd loaded this game in the Game Boy core, which I thought was fine because the ROM's extension is .gb instead of .gbc, but it is a Game Boy Color ROM. And, you know, it looked fine. It's got like the green and black, the dot matrix graphic style. I think it looked pretty cool, but it ran just awfully. And I was like, how could they release this like this? This is just painful. It was like as soon as there was like more than 2 other characters on the screen, even if they weren't enemies, if they were just like NPCs, it would just slow to a crawl. And I was like, this feels so strange. Then I loaded it up on my PC on an emulator, and I suddenly could see all these colors, and it was suddenly running really well. I was like, what have I done wrong here? So I redid the whole setup, got it loaded into the right core, and was able to play it just fine. I just played as the Hunter on the second go around because that was the character I got on the best with. When you wake up, just to your left, you can pick up some rations out of a chest. Rations are, like the description said, you can either use them to refill your hunger. You lose 1 hunger every room you go into. I haven't actually seen what happens if you have too much hunger. I was always just quite on top of it. If If you press select, the game tells you what weapon you're using for some reason, and then also how much hunger you've got. Then you can press start, and then it brings up sort of a little inventory. It's got your rations, your potions, which I didn't have any, your herbs, your bandages, herbs to cure poison, bandages to cure bleeding. And then if you select your rations, you can either use 1 or 3 rations. I would usually just go a few rooms, check my hunger, see if it was about 5 or something, use 3 rations, and that would be okay. But rations are also the currency in this game. So when you die and respawn with all your rations you've collected, you can then go buy yourself a potion, maybe. You can buy yourself more armor. You can buy yourself a better weapon. I was a bit worried because on one of my runs, I respawned with a decent amount of rations. I bought this chain armor, which gave me +4 armor. Even though I knew that later on in the dungeon, you do actually find chain armor in a chest. So I was like, is this gonna kind of cancel each other out? Have I just kind of wasted rations? But luckily when I found the second bit of chain armor, it still just added the +4 armor on. So you can technically have multiple of the same equipment, I guess, which was quite nice. Because it's a Game Boy Color game, your controls are very, very simple. You move with the D-pad. I don't know if you can set it to move with the joystick. The way I was controlling this was I had my analog pocket docked, and then I Bluetooth connected my Xbox One controller to it. And there was no option to rebind the controls on there, but I mean, the analog pocket literally doesn't have joystick capability, so I'm guessing it probably wouldn't work. Maybe if you're playing on an emulator, you can get joystick working, but I just played with the D-pad and it was okay. Kinda clunky movement, as you'd expect from a Game Boy Color game. So you got the D-pad, you got select to check your stats, start to open your inventory, A to interact, and yeah, interact, you can also move boxes that are in your way, and B to attack. And those are the controls. Very, very simple. Quite a straightforward game. Very, very difficult. I was dying constantly when I was first playing, possibly because I was also dealing with all the extra lag from playing on the wrong core. I'd taken down my setup and everything. I was like, right, this has been a bit of a disaster. I just got to record my video. And then I had to reset everything back up again. Pretty funny in hindsight. I will say, I think technically there's some randomness. When you exit a room, you go into a new room. I think there is the very, very slim chance you get a different dungeon layout each run. I will say, I only did a handful of runs, but 90% of them were exactly the same rooms over and over. I think maybe twice I saw a different room where I wasn't expecting it. So yeah, there is randomness, but not a ton of it. Whenever you come into a room, you have a couple of simple obstacles, like a box to move out of the way. You'll have 2 to 3 enemies, depending on how big the room is. But the enemies aren't malicious. They don't start beelining it for you right as soon as you enter. They just kind of wander around in a little set pattern, and you just have to stay out of their way and shoot them if you're the hunter, or get up close to them and slash them up if you're the melee classes. That is until you reach the first boss. The Mad Knight is the first boss I fought. Quite difficult. This enemy does actually go out of its way to attack you, as you'd expect from a boss, rather than just a regular enemy. The first phase was very easy, although I did find it pretty difficult to read his tell. He basically he slashes his sword and sends out a beam in front of him. And I found there was no warning for that at all. He would just attack and I'd be like, okay, I'm just taking the damage now. His second phase though, he goes even more mad. He gets these weird purple vines growing out of his back. And he just kind of walks menacingly towards you. Pretty spooky, but not too bad until he corners you, or lands on you. And I did find that when an enemy would be in the same tile as me, I often wouldn't be able to get away, which wasn't too hard as the hunter, because I could just stay away from enemies and just range attack them constantly. But playing as a melee character, I found it very, very difficult. Like, as soon as an enemy got in contact with me, I was like, okay, I'm just dead. I would be like hitting all the D-pad buttons, just not moving at all. So that's how I died to the Mad Knight the first few times. He just got up close to me and I was literally hitting all the buttons and I wasn't able to move or anything. So that was kind of weird, but I did manage to kill him on my 3rd time I got to him, I think. And then I got just absolutely bodied by this massive rat who, again, just kind of trapped me in one place and I couldn't move until I was down to 1 health, and yeah, he just murdered the crap out of me. So yes, very difficult game. Very, very cool that it's running on Game Boy Color. It's got a little bit of jank, you know, it's more ambitious than a lot of Game Boy Color games, I would say. Beautiful, beautiful graphics. They look absolutely lovely, especially when you get them running on the right core. Definitely a bit of a novelty getting a brand new Game Boy Color game in 2025, but it's a cool one. It's there's a lot of replayability. 4 different classes, one of them you've got to finish the game once to unlock. There's very good motivation to just keep on playing this game. There you go, that was a look at Lightseeker. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!